I know we have a great deal. I know we're with the right beverage partner, and I just have a lot of peace about it. It's not what I worry about. I got 99 problems. My beverage contract today isn't one of them, thanks to our partners at BevTrust. I'm Brandon Solano. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Rave Restaurant Group. My background is really QSR and pizza. I served as the Vice President of Marketing and Innovation for Domino's. I was the Chief Marketing Officer for Wendy's, and now I get the big seat, get to be Chief Executive Officer of a NASDAQ-listed company. Shortly after I started, we had a beverage contract expiring, and we started working with BevTrust, and really great beverage contracts coming out of it. BevTrust had this really interesting nomenclature. Okay, they looked at our existing contract. So before we even did any business, they said, listen, there are 11 landmines in your contract. And I said, oh, what's a landmine? Well, you got equipment payback here. There were all these gotchas that BevTrust called landmines. It's subtle. They're kind of hard for, the uninitiated to really see. And immediately BevTrust is like, hey, you've got problems here. We used a consultant before, and yet we had a contract that had 11 landmines in it. And it felt like a bad deal, but I didn't have context. I don't negotiate soft drink contracts every day. We're good at pizza. We're good at franchising. We're good at marketing our brand. We're good at this sort of thing, but I think we were out of our depth, and I just wasn't comfortable that we were going to get the best deal if we did it on our own. I laugh easily. I don't trust easily. And I think that was really the difference. It was, there was an authenticity. There was a style that was not high pressure. I didn't feel like somebody was lying to me. I felt like somebody's telling me, the facts. And, there's this head-heart thing. The things that you were saying lined up with, what my intuition was telling me, with what the numbers were telling me. And I just felt, very comfortable that we're heading in the right direction with BevTrust. I thought we had a pretty bad contract. I expected that we would get an increase, and, we were with one soft drink company and we put a bid out to the other one. And, I thought we might do a little bit better if we moved on, and it blew my expectations away. We doubled the case rate that we were getting under the old contract. So I feel really fortunate that, this was about a year into, my first CEO job. Our contract is expiring. This major, piece of income for us was expiring. And, we found BevTrust and we doubled it. And, my, first few years as CEO, this was a big portion of, our EBITDA gain. And frankly, you made me look smart, and that's not easy. We were with one soft drink company, major player, and we got the bids back, working with BevTrust. And, the alternative was significantly better, like not a little bit better, okay? It was double the funding of our old contract and probably 50% higher than the other alternatives that we had. But then we had to switch, right? We're going to switch soft drinks, and, it's not the 90s anymore. I was worried. So I had to tell the franchisees, hey guys, we signed a deal with the other guys. We're not going to have the same soft drink supplier. You might have a customer who's upset that they lost this particular flavor, but they get this one, and it was a non-event. Okay, no one cared. We doubled our funding. We got rid of all those landmines in our contract. What soft drink brand that you have, at your fountain is not a primary motivator in our experience for why consumers choose your brand. Everybody leaves the car dealership feeling like they got a good deal. Nobody leaves the car dealership saying, oh man, I got a terrible deal. Okay, anybody who signs a beverage contract, if you use BevTrust or someone else, or you go, on your own, those folks feel like they got a good deal. Not all of them do, okay? I'm sure the folks who signed our deal that was 10 years old, felt like, oh, we got a really good deal. They didn't. BevTrust helped us to sign a new deal that didn't, the new deals that we're in don't have volume commitments. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm sure that my successors will be grateful for it. So they're not dealing with this, years and years down the road. If you've got a contract coming up, or even if you're in a contract and you're not sure it's great, I would recommend partnering with BevTrust. For me, I was in that spot. What should I do with this? I'm not an expert here. And where I sit today, that was several years ago, we started working with BevTrust. I'm so grateful that we did. I feel very, very good about the work that we did together and the results in terms of where the contract we were under to where we ended up.